Thanksgiving was always a time for family gatherings, laughter, and a feast that would make anyone's mouth water. It conjured up images of golden brown turkeys, steaming mashed potatoes, and pumpkin pies that seemed to float like clouds in my dreams. But this year, something felt distinctly off. The day had barely begun when my phone buzzed, snapping me out of my thoughts. An email notification slid onto my screen, and I instinctively felt my heart sink as I read the subject line. Thanksgiving dinner details. I clicked it open, half expecting an invitation that, deep down, I knew I wouldn't get. As I skimmed through the email, my breath caught in my throat. There it was, my family, my wealthy family, was hosting a lavish Thanksgiving dinner at one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. Every detail was outlined in opulent language that dripped with privilege, from the handcrafted invites to the five-course meal catered by a renowned chef. And then came the most painful part. We can't wait to see you all there, love, Mom and Dad. I read it again to ensure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. Sure enough, the single glaring omission haunted me like a ghost. My name wasn't there. I wasn't invited. A wave of humiliation crashed over me, leaving me gasping for air. My hands trembled as I remembered the countless dinners where the conversation had inevitably turned into comparisons between my life and my sister Emily's golden existence. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, the one whose accomplishments always overshadowed my efforts, no matter how hard I tried. It was as if I were the shadow clinging to the edges of their narrative, forever unseen. As I sat in my modest apartment, the contrast between my life and that of my family couldn't have been starker. While they dined on extravagant meals, my cupboards held little more than instant ramen and a half-empty bottle of sauce I had desperately poured over whatever I could find. I often joked that I should start a cooking channel called Cooking Poor, but the humor felt hollow as my phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from my best friend, Sarah. "Hey, are you going to Thanksgiving dinner? Can't believe you're skipping it." I considered responding but hesitated. What could I say? Instead, I let the silence seep into me, wrapping me in a blanket of isolation. It was a familiar feeling, one that always crept in whenever my family's dynamics took center stage. I was the underdog fighting a battle against favor and fortune. I could picture Emily now, basking in the glow of parental admiration as they praised her latest achievements, her successful startup, her chic new apartment, or the way she effortlessly charmed everyone around her. Every family had its golden child, but why did mine have to shine so brightly, casting me into utter darkness? I felt a swell of anger bubbling within me, igniting a smoldering rage I had tried to suppress over the years. It wasn't just that I was excluded, it was the sting of rejection, the painful reminder that I wasn't worthy of their love or their time. I'm doing my best too, I thought bitterly, but knew it wouldn't matter to them. Thanksgiving dinner wasn't just about a meal. It was a stage for my family, a performance highlighting their extravagant lifestyles. I imagined the laughter echoing against the walls of that restaurant, the clinking of wine glasses as they toasted to their success, without me. The thought sickened me. I could see Emily at the center of it all, her smile radiant as they inevitably fawned over her latest triumph. If only they realized that their golden child was burning the rest of us with the light of her success, leaving us to scramble in the darkness. A notification pinged again, pulling me from my abyss of self-pity. This time it was a bill, an invoice from the restaurant for the Thanksgiving dinner. My stomach knotted as I opened it. My parents must have accidentally sent it to me, I concluded, confusion and anger surging. The numbers glared at me, an astronomical sum that would have sent most people into a frenzy. It felt like a slap in the face. They were going to celebrate without me, but somehow I was still part of their extravagant plans, even if it was from the sidelines, as a footnote in a story I never wanted a part of. Why would they think it was appropriate to send me the bill? Did they think it was a joke? Did they even care that I was left alone, abandoned on a day meant for family? I stared at the screen, feeling the raw emotions wash over me. If you've ever been underestimated by family, you'll understand every part of what happened next, I muttered to myself, knowing that others would share my pain. The silent betrayal brewed within me, stirring thoughts of retribution. I wasn't a passive observer in this story. I was tired of being the underdog, tired of the constant feeling of inadequacy that came with being compared to Emily. The bitterness coiled tightly around my heart, and as the anger simmered, I began to contemplate what to do next. This wasn't just an exclusion, it was a catalyst, an opportunity to shift the power dynamics that had long imprisoned me in the shadows. I picked up my phone, staring at my reflection in the screen. My brow furrowed, and I took a deep breath. Maybe it was time to break free from this invisible chain and embrace the strength I had buried deep inside me. As the sunset spilled into my room, casting shadows on the walls, I realized that Thanksgiving would no longer be just a painful reminder of my family's disregard. This year, I would no longer be the underdog. I would fight back. With renewed resolve, I placed my phone down and started brainstorming. Perhaps it was time to show my family that the one who they underestimated could rise to great heights. This was just the beginning of something new, a turning point that I would not let them take away from me. My story was far from over, and the twists were just beginning. As I lay on my couch, staring at the blank ceiling, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a flood of messages. My heart raced as I opened them one by one, each notification a dagger twisting in my chest. My social media feed was alive with posts from the lavish Thanksgiving feast my family was enjoying without me. There were pictures of golden turkeys, elegantly dressed tables, and the unmistakable glimmer of wealth that radiated from every corner of the restaurant. I could almost hear their laughter echoing through the screen, mocking my solitude. Scrolling through the images, I was hit by a wave of nausea. Emily, my sister, was at the center of it all, her radiant smile illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight. She wore a designer dress, her hair perfectly styled, and she looked, as always, the epitome of success. In one picture, she was lifting a glass of champagne, her eyes sparkling with delight. The caption read, "Thankful for family, success, and the beautiful moments we share." I felt my stomach churn as I read the comments, friends and relatives showering her with praise. My absence felt like a ghost haunting the celebration, a painful reminder of how easily they could forget me. How could they celebrate without considering how it would affect me? I had always been the invisible sibling, the one who couldn't live up to the standard Emily set. The resentment bubbled within me, threatening to spill over as I recalled the countless times I had been sidelined in favor of her accomplishments. It was as if my family had created a narrative where I didn't exist, a mere footnote in their story of success and glamour. I tossed my phone aside, unable to look at it any longer. But the images haunted me, burrowing into my mind, fueling my anger. I needed to confront my parents, not just about this Thanksgiving, but the years of emotional manipulation and favoritism that had shaped my existence. I had to stand up for myself, even if it meant facing the truth I had long avoided. With a deep breath, I dialed my mother's number. The phone rang, each tone echoing my anxiety until finally I heard her voice. "Hello, sweetheart. Happy Thanksgiving," she chimed, her tone dripping with cheerfulness. It was as if she had forgotten I wasn't at the dinner. "Mom," I started, feeling a knot tighten in my throat. "I saw the pictures. Why wasn't I invited?" Silence hung in the air for a moment, a heavy pause that felt like an eternity. "Oh, sweetheart, it was just a small gathering this year," she replied, as if that could justify the exclusion. "You know how it is, Emily has been so busy with her new project." "Busy or not, that doesn't excuse leaving me out," I snapped, surprising myself with the intensity of my voice. "I'm still your child, too. Just because I don't have a startup or a fancy apartment doesn't mean I don't deserve to be part of the family. Alex, darling, you just need to understand that we're proud of Emily. She's achieved so much and we want to celebrate that," my mom countered, her voice a mix of defensiveness and condescension. "Celebrate without me? How do you think that makes me feel?" I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through me. This was the moment I had longed for, the chance to voice my hurt and frustration. "I'm tired of being compared to her. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not enough." There was another pause, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. "It's not a competition, Alex. We love you both differently." "Differently or not, love shouldn't feel conditional," I interjected. "I shouldn't have to earn your affection through achievements. I want to be part of the family, not just an afterthought." The conversation escalated from there, each word exchanged intensifying the already fraught atmosphere. My mother's defensiveness clashed with my desperation for recognition, and for the first time I felt empowered to stand my ground. But with each accusation I hurled, I could sense the distance growing between us, the emotional chasm widening. Finally, I hung up, my heart racing. I felt exhilarated yet utterly drained. I had confronted my parents, but had I really changed anything? In the aftermath of the call, I found myself staring blankly at my phone, the anger slowly dissipating into a sense of resolve. I would no longer allow myself to be a pawn in their game of wealth and favoritism. With a newfound determination, I began to consider the hidden assets I possessed, skills, knowledge, and perhaps even investments that had remained buried under years of neglect. I remembered my late grandmother's advice: never underestimate the power you hold within yourself, Alex. Her words echoed in my mind like a soft whisper of encouragement. Maybe it was time to dig deeper and uncover what I had buried beneath the weight of my family's expectations. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across my apartment, I grabbed my laptop and began researching my options. There were ideas I had shelved over the years, projects I had shelved because I convinced myself they wouldn't measure up to Emily's successes. But now, the thought of creating something of my own ignited a spark within me. I wasn't just the overshadowed sibling, I was capable of carving my own path. As I explored new avenues and considered potential investments, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert about Emily's recent achievements. She had just secured a significant investment for her startup, and the articles were filled with praise for her vision and determination. The familiar sting of inadequacy washed over me, but this time I fought back. Instead of spiraling into despair, I felt a shift, a determination to rise above the shadows of my family's expectations. I realized that while my parents may never understand the depth of my struggles, I could create my own narrative, one that didn't depend on their approval. The confrontation had marked a turning point. I was no longer willing to tolerate being the underdog. It was time to step into the light, to embrace my own journey, and to let my hidden potential shine. With newfound clarity, I began drafting a plan for my own project, something that would not only validate me but also free me from the chains of comparison. I was ready to reclaim my voice, my worth, and most importantly, my life. As I hung up the phone, a mix of anger and determination swirled within me. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, a reminder of how skilled they were at deflecting responsibility. I had spent years trying to fit into a mold they created, but now I was ready to break free. I needed to take control of my life, and that meant confronting the truth about my family on my own terms. The next day, I resolved to visit my parents. I needed to find out what was really going on behind their seemingly perfect facade. The idea of facing them made my stomach twist, but it was overshadowed by the necessity of revealing the hidden layers of our family dynamic. As I drove to their luxurious home, I felt a surge of adrenaline. Each passing mile brought me closer to a confrontation I had long avoided. I parked my car, the sleek exterior of their house looming over me like a fortress. I entered the front door, greeted by the familiar scent of fresh linen and polished wood, an aroma that always made me feel small. "Alex," my mother exclaimed, her voice dripping with surprise. "You came. I need to talk to you both," I replied, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. As I made my way to the living room, I noticed the beautiful heirlooms my parents had collected over the years, pieces that had once belonged to our ancestors, relics of our family's history. My heart sank at the thought of how these items had become mere trophies of their affluence. My father looked up from his newspaper as I entered. He raised an eyebrow, a silent question lingering in the air. "What's on your mind, son?" I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. "I found out about the heirlooms," I said, my heart pounding. "I know you've been selling them." A palpable tension filled the room. My mother's eyes widened while my father's expression hardened. "That's not true," he said, his voice low and defensive. "Really?" I shot back, feeling the fire of indignation ignite within me. "I've seen the listings online. The family silver, the antique vase, items that should be cherished, not sold off for a quick profit." My mother's face flushed, and for a moment I thought she might actually defend herself. "We needed to make some adjustments, Alex. Times are changing." "Adjustments, or is it just about keeping up with Emily's lifestyle? You can't buy her love," I retorted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Emily's name lingered in the air like a bitter aftertaste, a constant reminder of the favoritism that had haunted me for years. "She's your golden child, but I'm still here, still your son. Can't you see how it feels to be cast aside?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could see my parents exchanging glances, their expressions filled with a mix of guilt and defiance. It stung more than any insult they had ever thrown my way. "Alex, you need to understand," my father finally said, his voice firm yet laced with an unfamiliar tremor. "We thought you were focused on your own life. You've always been independent in your own way." Independent, the word felt like a double-edged sword. I had been independent because I had to be, not because they had ever encouraged me. "I'm not asking for permission to live my life," I snapped. "I'm claiming it." That's when I decided to reveal my secret, a part of my life I had kept hidden even from myself. "I've been working on my own financial investments," I confessed. "I took classes in finance when I moved out. I've built a portfolio that's worth more than you realize." Their eyes widened in shock. I could see the wheels turning in their heads, trying to reconcile the image they had of me with this newfound revelation. "What do you mean?" my mother asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "I mean I'm not the failure you think I am," I said, my voice steady now. "I've been quietly planning my future. I didn't need your riches to define my worth." The atmosphere shifted, thick with a mix of tension and disbelief. I could see my father's pride battling with confusion, while my mother's eyes shimmered with an uncharacteristic vulnerability. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father finally asked, the anger in his voice replaced by something softer, an inkling of concern. "Because you never asked," I replied, feeling the weight of years being lifted off my shoulders. "You've always been so focused on Emily's achievements that my life became an afterthought. I wanted to show you I could stand on my own 2 feet." The room fell silent again, but this time it was a silence filled with possibilities. I could feel the shift in the air, a crack forming in the facade my family had built around us. I wasn't just their neglected son anymore, I was something more, an individual with my own dreams and aspirations. As we spoke further, I watched their expressions evolve from shock to contemplation. I realized that I was no longer the child begging for recognition. I was an adult ready to stake my claim. The conversation turned from accusations to curiosity as I shared my journey into finance, the hidden investments that had slowly started to grow, and the aspirations I had for independence. "I want to make my own way, but I also want to be a part of this family," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not asking for your approval, I'm simply asking for your understanding." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. The years of feeling invisible began to fade, giving way to the possibility of acceptance. I was no longer the side character in their story, I was the author of my own destiny. As I left their home that evening, the shadows of the past began to lift. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger confrontation. I knew there would be more to come, but for now, I had taken a crucial step towards reclaiming my narrative. As the tension in the room thickened, I braced myself for the storm ahead. My parents, once the towering figures of my childhood, now felt fragile, their carefully constructed facade beginning to crack. I could see they were not only surprised but also alarmed. In that moment, I knew I had to push further. "I've been investing in stocks, real estate, and even some startups," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "While you were busy selling off family heirlooms, I was building something of my own, a foundation that's worth millions. I didn't need you to finance my life, I've been financing yours." My mother's mouth opened slightly, as if she were about to say something, but words failed her. My father's expression shifted from disbelief to a mixture of anger and something I hadn't expected: fear. They had always been the ones in control, the ones with the perceived power, but now, the tables were turning. "You're lying," my father finally managed, though his voice lacked conviction. "You've always been so reckless. You think you can just waltz in here and claim something that isn't yours." I took a step closer, my heart pounding, but this time it wasn't fear that fueled my adrenaline. It was empowerment. "It is mine, Dad. I've been quietly supporting you both. The lifestyle you've enjoyed, the vacations, the extravagant dinners, the parties, all of that has been funded by me." The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. I could see the calculations running through their minds, the way they were reconstructing their understanding of me. For years, I had been the underdog in their eyes, the one who didn't fit in. But now I was revealing my true self, and it terrified them. As the confrontation escalated, I made a decision that would change everything. "You think I came here to fight? I came here to reclaim my life," I declared. "I'm no longer the son you can manipulate or ignore. I'm your equal, and it's time you recognize that. Just then, a knock on the door interrupted our charged exchange. It was the financial advisor I had arranged to meet, a man who had been an ally in my journey, someone who understood the complexities of wealth and family. He stepped inside with an air of authority that made my parents visibly uncomfortable. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," he started, addressing them directly, "I think it's time we clarify some things regarding your son's financial standing and the family business." I could see my parents' faces pale. They were not prepared for this. The advisor continued, "Alex is not only a significant investor in the family business, he is, in fact, the rightful heir. The assets you've been selling off belong to him. I have all the documentation to prove it." The room fell silent. My father's bravado evaporated, and my mother's carefully curated image began to crumble. They exchanged glances, their previous confidence replaced by a dawning realization of their own vulnerability. "What do you mean?" my mother finally asked, her voice trembling. I stepped forward, feeling a surge of satisfaction. "It means that the power dynamics have shifted. I've supported you both while you treated me like an outsider, no more. The family business is mine, and you will have to respect that." The financial advisor handed them a report filled with figures and legal documents, detailing my investments and contributions to the family business. Their expressions morphed from shock to disbelief, and I felt an unexpected wave of sympathy. They were losing their grip on the narrative they had crafted for years. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father finally asked, his voice softer, almost pleading. "Because I wanted to prove I could stand on my own," I replied, my tone steady. "I wanted to find my own footing without your influence, but now it's clear that I need to set boundaries." The revelation left them speechless. I watched as their faces shifted through disbelief, anger, and finally, resignation. They had underestimated me for far too long. As the reality of the situation settled in, I could feel a sense of liberation washing over me. I was no longer the child seeking approval from his wealthy parents. I was an adult claiming his identity, his worth, and his rightful place in the family hierarchy. "From this point forward," I declared, "I will be taking over the management of the family business. I want to redefine what it means to be part of this family. It's not just about wealth, it's about respect, love, and emotional wealth." That's what I've been missing all along. My parents stood in stunned silence, grappling with the enormity of my words. I could see the wheels turning in their minds as they processed the shift in power. This was my moment of justice, a poetic twist in our family narrative. As I turned to leave, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had confronted my family, revealed my truth, and taken control of my destiny. I realized that the real victory wasn't the wealth I had amassed, but the emotional strength I had discovered within myself. "If you ever doubted your worth, remember this moment," I said, pausing at the door. "I may not have been the golden child, but I am no longer the undervalued son. I am Alex Thompson, and I will create my own legacy." The door closed behind me, sealing off the past I had longed to escape. As I stepped out into the crisp air, I felt a sense of empowerment I had never known before. I was ready to embrace my future, one where emotional wealth and dignity reigned supreme over financial status. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more stories where the underdog finally gets the justice they deserve.